So before I invite the bell and introduce our great speaker today, just one quick announcement for everybody. So just as you can see in the slide here, there is a free event, which is actually perfect timing for today's topic. It's basically a free parenting conference that is going to happen, as you can see, is September 9th and 10th, where there's about 10 to 12 recorded interviews with different people across different topics of positive parenting. And I was honored to be one of the interviewees, and my topic was character strengths. The big focus is on kind of resilience and bringing forth positivity into families and so on. And the conference was created and is hosted by two great figures, and you might recognize their names. One is Renee Jain, who's been working in the character strengths field for well over 10 years. And the other is Zawaly Sabari, who has 3 best-selling books. She's Oprah's go-to person for positive parenting. And so the two of them have a new book coming out called Superpowered. And so this is their Superpowered Summit. And so Via is very happy to be part of that. And you all can certainly take part in it too. Simply click on that link and register and attend whatever recorded sessions you want to on those days. And Via will do a little bit more promoting, so I'm sure you'll hear more about it in the future. So after that announcement, let's now invite the bell to formally begin today's United in Strength session. So welcome everybody to United in Strengths. And I'm Ryan Niemiec here with Ruth Pierce, and we're here with the VIA Institute on Character for these weekly experiences that are all about coming together as a community to bring forth mindfulness and to bring forth character strengths to help ourselves, to help families, to help our self-care, and to really create a stronger community. So we're very happy that you're all here with us. And we've been having a guest speaker about once a month, and we always have wonderful, distinguished guest speakers. And so I'm very happy that today is no different. And so I'd like to start by just introducing you to Sarah Zawaly. So there's really a lot to say about Sarah. Let me just say a few things. So one is she's a friend and a colleague of mine, which is a great joy for me. And she's a clinical program manager in the Meyerson Center for Safe and Healthy Children. So let me just kind of pause there for a moment and say something about the Meyerson Center for Safe and Healthy Children. So for one, the Meyerson Center is one of another initiative of the Meyerson Foundation. So some of you might know this, some of you might not, that the Meyerson Foundation is actually what originally brought forth the VIA Institute. So all of this work with character strengths was sort of the brainchild of Neil Meyerson and Marty Seligman, and then followed into the 55 scientists, and then the work has continued to evolve from there from the early 2000s. So the Meyerson Center for Safe and Healthy Children is yet another major Meyerson family initiative. And so this center is located squarely in the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And for those of you who don't know, this is actually the number 2 or number 3 children's hospital in the world. And so this program in that hospital is a premier program, and it's really helped to set the national standard in the United States, the national standard for enhancing and strengthening evaluations for child abuse. And so they conduct these state-of-the-art diagnostic, treatment, prevention, and training programs, and cutting-edge research on child sexual abuse, child physical abuse, child neglect, and parenting. And this is so, so important because you may or may not know, but just in the state of Ohio, one of 50 states in the United States, so I don't know what it is in your country or how these numbers are, just in the state of Ohio, 34,000 children are victims of abuse and neglect. And because of underreporting on this topic that can be very sensitive, very challenging to identify, the estimates are, the numbers are probably 3 times that high. So I mention all that as a backdrop to say that, you know, Sarah Zawaly is right there in that center, helping to cultivate the staff well-being of people. And she also specializes in trauma-informed practices and organizational resilience to help to mitigate traumatic events for staff, for families, for clients.
Only yours?
Got some background noise there. Okay. She is a past teacher and clinical social worker and an early childhood practitioner at Children, Inc., which is where I got to know Sarah and collaborate with her. And so she's been helping families and children and organizations foster well-being for quite a long time. Also, she co-created the Character Effect, which is a social emotional learning program that is a curriculum that infuses character strengths and mindfulness into the classroom for teachers and young students, and then also connecting a lot with parents as well. So she brings a very unique perspective to the field, a very needed perspective to a field that's enormously deficit-based and very relevant for our experiences here in United in Strengths. So with that, welcome, Sarah. Glad that you're here.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for that wonderful introduction.
Absolutely. So, our topic here today, I know, is getting back to school. So many kids are getting back to school across the globe. Some have been back for quite some time. Some won't be going back. And I'm just kind of curious, what have you noticed just in general at this time of COVID and coping in regard to families and stress and schooling and so on?
Wow, that's a really great question, right? Because if you think about just what's happening in our world and all of these kind of routines and, kind of this getting back to school, it just looks so different than it has in the past. Mm-hmm. And with that, not only does it look different, there are just so many changes that have happened, so many choices that we've had to make as parents. That could be really challenging. Are we making the right choice by sending them? Are we, holding them back by keeping them back at home?
We're going to review.
There are just, of course, so many challenges with that. And I think just acknowledging and thinking about however parents are feeling about this right now is okay. You can be relieved that your kids are going back. You can be worried. You can be scared. It's okay. We are all feeling things differently. And it's just important to really acknowledge that. But then also during this stressful time, I think just remembering that our kids can feed off of our stress as well. And so we, in some ways, need to really be that regulator and really count on that self-regulation strength. That might be a challenge for us at times, but really be that model of self-regulation.
Yeah, I love that. What a great way to start things out, that we need to normalize the emotions and the complexities in this unprecedented time, but then also try to still, as best we can, be that good role model. Do you have any general thoughts on how parents can be a little bit more self-regulated? How they might be a good role model for what you're talking about?
Well, gosh, there are so many things that we can do. And I know probably so many people here think about this, but when I think about first and foremost, it's really being able to focus on ourselves as parents and build our parental resilience. And finding ways that we can build our own resilience and using really those strengths that we all have and remembering them. Because I think sometimes as parents, we get sidetracked. We forget to think about what comes really natural to us, what is really makes us feel at our best, because we're so focused and worried about what's happening with our kids. And so to kind of bring that back and really take time for yourself to build your own social emotional bank account, because right now there are a lot of withdrawals being made, especially with our stress level kind of being so high.
That's a good metaphor. Yeah. Our social emotional bank account. I like that. So you write and talk a lot about family resilience. What are some, general strategies that you might suggest for us on kind of fostering family resilience? Kind of an interesting phrase just to think about, actually. Maybe first defining what is family resilience? What does that mean to say? Because, we could throw it around and maybe not everyone would be on the same page with what that means. And then what might be some tips to foster that?
So, really when I think of family resilience, that is our ability as a family unit to bounce back from any adversity that we face. And obviously right now, we're really looking at some community adversities. And so just thinking about how do we handle these adverse experiences that happen to us as a family and use our strengths and use our capabilities to bounce back and be better for it in the long run. So a couple things that I think of that really help build families' resilience is, first and foremost, it's that you think of like that individuality and really appreciating that in each child and with yourself and your partner or whoever else you co-parent with, because we all have different strengths and need different things during stressful times. So one thing that I think of is always just allowing for this wide range of emotions and expecting that to happen. I was telling Ryan about the last time we were talking. Every year, my middle child, who I have this quiet, when you think of like prudent and judgment and all of those, wonderful strengths, he's not much of a talker. So when he's worried, and every in the beginning of the school year, this happens, he's mean to me, just mean, right? He's angry and frustrated and nothing I'm doing is right. And I didn't get the right backpack or the right, whatever it is. And everything's my fault. And every year I throw my arms up and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. You're in charge of him. I'll say to my husband, and then it's like, oh yeah, it takes me just like 1 or 2 days to be like, that's right. This is his way of showing his worries and fears about the start of school. So allowing for that wide range of emotion. And I understand it's not okay to be mean. It's okay to be mad. It's not okay to be mean, but I'm his safe person. And so just allowing for that wide range of emotion is really important to help build that family resilience, because you know what? It's been a week and we're just back on track now. So I would say that's the one thing. And of course, it's so important just to respect our individual differences and recognizing we need different things. All of us do. And I think that's so rooted in our strengths. School looks different right now. And so a child who's really high on social intelligence really loves and values their friendships. That is why they go to school. This might be a particularly challenging time for them because social interaction now is so limited and you have to be socially distant. So how are we allowing for different opportunities for them to connect with their peers in a new way is going to be really important. For other kids who maybe are high, even on prudence or different things, and they're cautious, this might cause a lot of worries for them. It might be harder for them to walk into that classroom. So just recognizing how different everyone is. I do see a comment, someone saying my kid loves the social distancing from school. And I think that is so true. Some kids are really enjoying this, right? Because they do have different strengths and they're happy to not have to engage. Sometimes that takes a lot of effort too, and it gives them that little bit of space. Other thing, I talked about modeling, and then I'm just thinking another big thing that I talk about a lot is how do we maintain rituals and routines when things do look really different.
Yeah, could you say more about that? I know when we had a conversation about this, the things that you had to say about that were very helpful for me and my family. So yeah, what advice would you give in terms of creating rituals and routines?
So when I think of like routines, of course, this is helpful for anyone from 0 to, our age or however old you are. Like having a routine can just really help us, because what we know is that kids feel safe when they know what to predict next. And I think that's particularly challenging at this time because kids just aren't sure what to expect. And so I think, how can we build certain things in throughout the day that are really consistent? Not that we have to be pretty flexible, right? Because things are changing on a dime. They might be in school one week and out one week. They might be there part-time or not part-time. But within that, you can have little routines and rituals. And I always think too, a great like little routine that I have built into my calendar and with my kids' calendar is just a mindful moment before we leave for school. My kids are on different schedules, but you just sit for 1 minute and take a couple deep breaths together and maybe think about what strength you're going to focus on for the day, or something that's been really challenging. Maybe the day before, what are we going to do differently to try to get over that hump or that challenge? So building in little things throughout the day can be really helpful. But then also, I think even when you have younger kids, or kids who might need more predictability, creating a calendar. That's something really simple that you can do. Make a calendar that is going to explain what the week looks like, especially if the days are changing for kids. And then also, building into that routine, like how are you into, talking about strengths in those routines? If your new routine consists of a walk at night, are you building an appreciation of beauty in that routine? Listening for new sounds, like what are you doing that's going to make that a little more memorable, which can then build into that ritual piece, which I just think rituals are so special for families, and they all look so different. So it's really, rituals I feel like should really be built on your strengths as a family and what that looks like. Because again, during stressful times, it can be hard to remember your strengths.
Yeah, great examples. And just to add on that, I remember when we were talking, you mentioned the example of, something as simple as once the child returns from school, having some kind of ritual, like to tap into the love of learning, strength, or curiosity, having them review what they learned, one thing that they learned, or their favorite thing that they learned, or whatever they were most curious about from the day. And that could be a ritual. It doesn't have to just be something the parent does one time or just does the first couple of days of school. It's kind of like that first bite of food. We pay close attention to the first bite, but then maybe not the 20th bite. And same thing with this. Maybe we pay attention the first day and the second day, but just have it be a regular ritual that we always check in on, and helping them tap into that particular strength. Yeah.
It's so important, Ryan, because I think what happened, it's easy to focus on what goes wrong. Your kids will have no problem telling you throughout the day what's gone wrong. But as adults, if we're not talking to our kids about our own strengths and their strengths, it's not going to be part of their belief system. It's not going to be in that language that they use and reach for when they do have a challenging situation. So we have to really be intentional and draw that attention to the strengths that they've used for the day. And of course you want to do it in this natural and meaningful way, because kids know that. I feel like they catch on pretty quickly. And so it's really thinking about, wow, what strength they used. And then of course, why you appreciate it about them. And then, maybe a strength that they didn't use that they wished they did during the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great example. Now, would you say anything about sort of the distinction between a family as a unit, that approach to character strengths and building routines, versus one parent with one child one-on-one doing that? Because I ask that maybe more for selfish reasons, because I find myself connecting, I feel so uplifted personally when I feel like a good father when I'm one-on-one with the kids, and I'm one-on-one, I'm there in the moment, connecting, we're having fun. And sometimes when I'm with my 3 little kids and wife, and it's like, it's chaos, and it's harder to get that ritual in place. And my kids are younger, so eventually we'll get to maybe, over the dinner or lunch together or something, we'll review something positive from the day and everyone will be able to participate, but it's tough at this age. So just wondering if you make that distinction at all, or offer any thoughts to people in general about the constellation of family members. And it's different for everybody. Some people it's single parent, some people there's a grandparent, or, so.
That's a really good question. And what I would rely on is our go-to as a family, because you do know, right? Like all of us have these different strengths and enjoy different things. But I think especially when you have young children, relying on your strength of humor is pretty darn important, and giving yourself a break when it comes to those kind of rituals as a family, and just no pressure, right? If it doesn't work out, if you go to try to create this new ritual, which is something that I would really encourage with everyone, creating a new ritual with your family, it might not work, right? There might be someone crying and someone might not be happy about it. But there might be that one-on-one, right? We're like, wow, I mean, we had started this summer, so rare that my kids can be up late, right? And so this summer, without all the activities and hustle bustle, we started stargazing and got this great app, and we could look at the stars and focus on this real appreciation for beauty and excellence, but also curiosity and learning something new. But my middle, not super interested. That's okay, right? So we just went on and kept doing that without him. And I think you just have to give yourself a break when it comes to those things, and not everything's going to work for everyone.
That's great to have that kindness toward oneself when trying out these things. And
that's right.
Great. That's great. Anything, I want to make sure I ask you at least one question on trauma-informed care and adverse childhood experiences. But before I do that, just want to say, is there any other things you'd like to say about character strengths in parenting, families, back to school, final tips, strategies for all of us?
Well, I guess one thing that I was thinking about that I didn't talk a lot about is just preparation. I think that's really important. We forget sometimes to really prepare our kids of what to expect is going to happen. And I think this is, really important for all kids, no matter what strengths there are, but especially for younger kids where things might look really different too. So a couple suggestions that I would have for you around this is, bringing in some of that strength of judgment when you're talking with your kids, and really encouraging them to use their judgment when it comes to situations that might occur in the classroom, or situations that might occur even outside of school. For example, if a friend asks to borrow a pencil, that's a normal situation, right? That typically wouldn't be an issue, but we have to role play these things with kids now, because now we can't share pencils because of COVID-19 and keeping our distance. So, role playing some situations that might occur, because without practicing and without learning strategies, really our kids just don't know what to do. So I think preparation is really important. And also, again, just having conversations about how you are going to handle certain situations, and then talking about it when they do get home from school as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I lied. One more question before we get to that other final question. So this is the second one. Any strategies for parents on how to have difficult conversations? And I know that's a very loaded question, but because we're trying to offer ideas for how do you talk about race with kids, and so in this case, how do you talk about coronavirus with kids? How do you talk about some of these, really difficult, challenging thing, a kid's being very resistant about something, and what would be your general recommendations there to have? How do you have difficult conversations?
One thing that I always think about when I think about child development and understanding kids is, I always like to say to parents, kids have bunny ears. They hear everything, but they're rotten interpreters. So they've got these huge ears. They hear it all. But especially young kids, I would say even under the age of 7-ish, 8, they are still really concrete thinkers. So they might hear someone got, COVID-19 and died. They can translate that to that I might die too, right? So understanding that kids hear everything, they might not be able to be interpreting it in the correct way. So just being aware of that. So being aware of what they're hearing and what they're seeing. What's the language that the school's using to explain things? But in trying to get on common ground with the school is going to be really important as well, but not ignoring it. right? Like thinking about what's developmentally appropriate for your child to know. So, and then also putting the power in their hands, right? Like you're wearing a mask to protect yourself and others around you, and making sure it gives them, some control over this. What you're doing is helping others. You're keeping your germs to yourself, and you're sharing, so you don't share it with other people. This is going to keep us all safe. Yes, lots of people are hurt and in the hospital, but aren't we so lucky that we have the doctors and nurses taking care of them? And this mask is going to help you stay safe and healthy, and help your teacher stay safe and healthy. So talking about giving them the information that that is developmentally appropriate will depend on each child, depending where they are, but making sure you don't overdo it. They don't need to know all the details, but they do know more than you might think. So making sure you have conversations. We don't want to ignore it. That will make it more challenging for them.
Really well said. Err on the side of conversation. And I really love the way that you put that. And it's actually been in my consciousness ever since we last spoke. In every interaction I've had with kids, the part about, it sounds so simple, and most parents will say, yeah, I kind of know that. But if you really take this as a mindset, it goes so deep. And it's that point about kids are basically assume they're always hearing everything you say, even when you think that they're not, or you're saying it in one room that's a couple rooms away. Assume they're hearing everything, but that they're poor interpreters, poor at understanding it, poor at translating it in a practical way into their life, and poor to understand exactly what you're meaning by it. And to have that dichotomy sitting in a parent's mind as you operate with your kids, it's been a big deal for me. So thank you for that. So final question before we turn to a meditation is, can you just give us a quick definition? And I know this is a topic that textbooks have been written about, so it's a little unfair to you to ask so many questions that are so broad, but the definition of adverse childhood experiences, and then a little bit about trauma-informed care. I mean, there's going to be some people that on the call here that also work with kids that have been abused and neglected, or some maybe they have a kid that's abused and neglected themselves. And again, I'm not putting you in a position to be the therapist or anything here, but just what do those terms mean, and what might you say about them?
Sure. And you'll have to cut me off, Ryan, when I talk too much about this, but I am just, so humbled to work with the people that I work with, that reach and interact with, patients and families every day. I am on the prevention side. And I think it's in this unique position where we can, talk about strengths and resilience and how do we prevent these adverse childhood experiences. And really, when we think of adverse childhood experiences, these are potentially traumatic events that occur when we are under the age of 18. And they've kind of been grouped into categories. So we have abuse and neglect, which include emotional, physical, abuse, neglect. Then of course, there's just, household kind of disruptions, which can be an incarcerated parent is considered an adverse childhood experience. A parent who is an alcoholic or abused drugs could be an adverse childhood experience, and everything to parents getting divorced. So really, this was a study that looked at basically, 10 adverse experiences that can have long-term effects on someone's health. And those are long-term effects that can be physical, such as cardiovascular disease, an increased risk for cancer, more likely to use substances as an adult, to mental and social emotional issues. So although these potentially traumatic events sound big and scary, they also, there's a scale of resilience as well. And that's why I love talking about strengths, because those are internal resilience. And those are the things that can really help us get through challenges. And that's our belief system, that we have self-confidence, and then we believe that we're loved and we can make a difference in the world. But then there are also the protective factors, the environment, other caring and loving adults in our life that protect us from these adverse childhood experiences. We also know that adverse childhood experiences, although the largest study that went through Kaiser Permanente and Dr. Folletti looked at those 10 experiences, we know that the community experiences can also be adverse. So there are adverse community experiences that people face every day that can have an impact on their health, such as racism and discrimination, poor housing, instability, living in poverty. Those also are things that can really affect your long-term health physically and emotionally. And then trauma-informed care is an area that I like to focus on, and really, that's really just this recognition that adverse childhood experiences aren't unique to a subset of population. Adverse childhood experiences impact the country and the world universally. 2/3 of people have experienced an adverse childhood experience, more than none. And we recognize that, and we are very conscientious to not re-traumatize or re-trigger people who have had adverse childhood experiences. So developing strategies in relational health and building relationships and ensuring that every touch point in a child's life or an adult's life is a positive one that we can try to make and is a healing connection through teachers or parents or neighbors or the community or health providers. Really every relationship can be healing.
Okay, well, thank you. Very complex topic. You nailed it in 2 to 3 minutes. So thank you for that. So let's, I know you have a meditation prepared, and why don't we do maybe a short meditation?
Yes. Short meaning 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
Let's do like 3 minutes. Yeah.
3 minutes. Okay. So I am going to reference this meditation that's been a little adjusted. Obviously, anything I like to do, I like to be able to translate it to you to be able to do with your children. So this is a concept that I had gotten off Sesame Street Communities around a big bird and visualizing his safe place. But we can all reduce our stress and worries and recognize a safe place. So you can translate this to working with your children as well. So I invite you, if you feel comfortable, to just go ahead and put your feet flat on the floor and find a comfortable position. Take a couple breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And if you'd like to close your eyes, you can do that or find a soft gaze. And slowly take in 3 cleansing breaths. And I want you to picture in your mind a safe place. This might be somewhere in nature and free from people, or somewhere close to a loved one, snuggling with your child. Just anywhere you feel really safe. If you're having trouble remembering a safe place, that's okay. Just imagine what a safe place would be for you. And now, start your journey to your safe place. Continue breathing slowly. And along the way, take in what you see and feel. Is it the sun on your face? Maybe the wind? The carpet up your stairs? A soft comforter? The warm touch of your child? Now visualize your steps toward this safe place. You're almost there. It feels great to be here. A wide open space, beauty around you, the love of your child. Whatever it is, bring to mind the strengths you have at this moment. Look out into your safe place. What strengths are surrounding you? Let time slip away. Continue breathing slowly. And as you leave, look back once to take in the scenery, the view. You're almost back. Slowly open your eyes and acknowledge the gratitude and love you have within for this place and this moment. And remember, you can go here anytime. And when you're ready, come back to the Zoom room.